Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the information sharing. I'd like to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to attend the training session. If you have not signed in, please do so at the back table with Stephanie. Stephanie, will you raise your hand? Also, your folders are on the back table as well, and they are labeled with your board or planning commission's name, or excuse me, your board or commission's name. And if we don't have a packet for you, we have some extras, and Stephanie will be able to assist you. My name is Florence Evans, and I am the assistant clerk with the clerk of the Board of Supervisors. I'd like to introduce Krista Whitman. She is the assistant county counsel for Sacramento County. Krista, if you could just wave your hand. I also have Clarice Thomas. She is a deputy clerk with the clerk of the board's office. Clarice is someone that you will be working with in the near future. She's the primary contact for electronic filing. Also, Stephanie had waved her hand earlier. She is new to the clerk's office. She is also a deputy clerk, and she is assisting us with this project. Let me cover some housekeeping before we touch the background. If you need to use the restroom, it's located on the lobby floor, right behind, you want to go behind the security officer, and the restrooms are on the left side of the building. If we have a fire drill, we're going to exit out these doors behind you. We're going to exit out through the doors on the left, and we'll meet in front of the water fountains and wait for further instruction, okay? So I want to give you a little bit of background information on how we've arrived at this point. The FPPC requires that the county adopts a code, conflict of interest code, and the conflict of interest code designates positions that are required to disclose financial information. It also includes disclosure categories that tells the filer the type of financial information that they must disclose. We are in the process of updating our conflict of interest code for boards and commissions. We also have a conflict of interest code for the employees, which has been amended very recently. And so now we are focused on the boards and commissions and designating those positions that are required to file. And you were invited here today because you're the liaison for a board or commission that has been identified as a required filer. Also want to mention that the Conflict of Interest Code does prescribe the filing process for the Form 700s as well. So that's how it all ties in together. So if you open up your packet, you do have an agenda, and we're going to be following the agenda. Some of the things that we're going to be covering are the legal requirements per the FPPC regulations. We're also going to talk about the amended Conflict of Interest Code that we are taking to the Board of Supervisors in the next month or so. We are going to be talking about the modified disclosure categories as well. We're going to talk about the roles of the filing officer, the filing official, and the filer, which are your members. We will also be talking about the required ethics training, and that is something probably new to some of you, okay? We're also going to go over electronic filing, which is upcoming. We're really excited about that. E-disclosure is the system that we use to file electronically. That's what your members will be using, and you will be using as the liaison. We're going to also be asking for information from you. There's a membership form in your packet, and we're going to be asking you to take a look at that. We'll also give you some key dates that you can plug in on your calendars. And then we'll talk about the nominations and appointments process. We just want to put you at ease with that. And then we'll have additional resources that we'll be going over on a web page for you, and then we'll be able to answer any questions. And at this time, I'd like to encourage you, if you could just hold your questions to the end of the presentation. We'll be happy to assist you at that time. And then Clarice and I, and hopefully if Krista has some time, will be here after the session in case you have more one-on-one questions, okay? I think this slide is really self-explanatory. It's the law. So I think we want to kind of give you a little bit of background information on FPPC regulations and some government code, and I'd like to bring up Krista Whitman, who will cover that for you.
Hi, I'm Krista Whitman. I think, as Flo has said, my role is to tell you that even though this is kind of a pain, you have to do it anyway. And I think at that point I could probably sit down, because that's pretty much, what it is. It's just, it is very, there are some very technical rules in FPPC, both on adopting conflict of interest codes and on disclosure requirements. I advise regularly, typically on what needs to be disclosed. So they're very technical. There's a lot of regulations. I'm going to keep this very short and sweet, because I think as your role, you just need to know what it is that you need to do to comply with the filing of the code. So the Political Reform Act requires that most state and local governmental officials, such as those on boards and commissions, planning commissions, et cetera, and some employees are required to publicly disclose their personal assets and income. We have, I think, as part of this process, tried to limit the number of employees in particular who are required to file Form 700s, which are the Statement of Economic Interest, so that we don't capture too many people that really aren't making or participating in government decisions. We also, I worked with Flo and reviewed the list of boards and commissions which have historically been filing and those that haven't, and took a fresh look to see which ones should file and which ones shouldn't. Because again, we want to make sure that we're in compliance with the law, but there are some, administrative effort involved with filing a code, and so we don't want to include a board or commission that really isn't involved in making government decisions. So that was part of this process that Flo has been heading up. So just basically, the FPPC regulations 18730 is sort of the basic regulation on the provision of the establishment of conflict of interest code. And that code requires that you designate positions that have been determined that the people in those positions make or participate in decisions which foreseeably have a material effect on economic interests. So that was part of the process that we have gone through, and had each department and boards and commissions will need to do as well, is go back and look about which positions you have where those individuals are making or participating in a governmental decision which might affect their economic interests. So the disclosure categories are set forth in the appendix to the code, and that specifies what kind of economic interests an employee might have and which ones are reportable and disclosable. And we have 6 different categories, and there'll be, a determination made as to who has to report under which category. The Statement of Economic Interest, the Form 700, is sort of the meat of this whole thing, and that's the annual form that those who are required to file must file. So they have to file with the clerk of the board, because the clerk of the board is the code reviewing body, and initial statements are filed by new employees. And then you have, and that's within 30 days after assuming a position that's covered by the code. Then there are annual statements that everyone who's covered by the code has to file, and those are due no later than April 1st of each calendar year. And then there's also a requirement for leaving office statements, and those are due 30 days after someone who's subject to the code is leaving office. So that's the basic requirement. Under the government code sections, every agency is required to adopt and promulgate a conflict of interest code pursuant to the Political Reform Act. And that code, again, must list positions which are subject to the code, and that's in the appendix. And the conflict of interest codes are not in effect until the code reviewing body has approved, and in this case that's the county. So the Board of Supervisors is the code reviewing body. The clerk is the entity that does the administrative work, but the Board of Supervisors actually adopts the conflict of interest codes for the county and for agencies which are wholly within the county. The City Council is the code reviewing body for agencies which are wholly within the city. And then if you have a multi-county or state agency where it's crossing jurisdictional lines, then the FPPC is the code reviewing body. So there's a requirement in the law that no later than July 1st of each even-numbered year, the county must update its conflict of interest code, and agencies which have their own code must also do it as well, coordinating through the clerk of the board. And those biennial updates to the code are due by October 1st of each year. If there are no updates, then they just notify that there aren't any updates. The update process is to identify positions which may have changed, or duties for those positions may have changed to change the code filing requirements. So that's what that update is. In this case, we're doing a much larger update than that, but that's the biennial requirement. Just one last point. You may wonder, why is the board and commission that I'm working with have to file? And as I said, we went through a comprehensive review of each one to make a determination. And just so that you know, the basic rule is that a committee, board, commission, or other entity has to file a conflict of interest code if they possess decision-making authority, meaning that the entity can make a final governmental decision. And that's probably limited for most boards and commissions. A planning commission, for instance, could make a final government decision. Obviously, the Board of Supervisors, there are some other entities that do that as well. But those are kind of a limited group. Another option would be that the entity may compel a government decision or prevent one. That's probably not something that we see very often. The bigger question for all boards and commissions is whether the entity makes substantive recommendations that over a time are regularly approved by the board. So if basically the decision is, in essence, rubber stamped by the final body, for instance, the Board of Supervisors, then that entity is making governmental decisions. So, and a committee, board, or commission does not possess decision-making authority if it's formed for the sole purpose of researching a subject or preparing a report that then would go on to another body. So if it's just for doing background work, then the board or commission is not required to adopt a conflict of interest code. In most cases, we have a resolution, an ordinance, or bylaws of a board of commission that would establish whether or not they're code filers. And the easiest is when a board or commission has been established by ordinance, so it would be in the county code. It would just say right there, they're filing or they're not. And that's a determination that is made when the board or commission is established. The ones that we reviewed were not ones where the ordinance already says so or the board resolution already says so, but where we've got some other informal practice where the board or commission has been filing, but we took a second look at it just to make sure that that was accurate. So that's all I have, unless Flo has something else you'd like me to address. All right, thank you for your time. Have fun.
Thank you, Krista. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the amended code that we are going to be taking to the Board of Supervisors. And as Krista had pretty much covered, I'll just give a little summary of that, maybe just some insight. The biennial notices are mailed out, as she said, on the even years, out by July 1. And they are due back if the code has amendments, or if they do not have amendments, we need to be notified of that by October 1 of the same year. What we are doing with our conflict of interest code, the amended code that we're taking to the board on June 9th, is we are going to present with them a current list of the boards and commissions that have been identified as required filers. We are also going to be proposing modified disclosure categories. Currently, right now, your board members are filing either 1, 2, and 3. We will now have 6 different disclosure categories, and I'll talk about that in the next slide. Also, something new will be added to this is the prescribed procedures for the required ethics training. And this does have a little impact to you as the liaison, and I'll be covering that as well a little later into the presentation. If you can open up your packet and pull out your Form 700 and go to your schedule, and we can start with A2. The modified disclosure categories, I'm using the word modified for a reason. They're really not new. If you look at categories A, B, and C, your members should be familiar with those filing categories. What is new are D, E, and F. This would be income from gifts or travel-related payments or consultants. What the thought process was here is that, one, when the county went with its amended code for the employees, these are the disclosure categories that they adopted for employees, and we thought that it would be good to mirror that for the boards and commissions. Some of you liaisons are required to file as well, so this makes that transition easier. Also, your members, your filers, should be very familiar because they pretty much replicate the schedules that you have right there attached to your Form 700 statement. So the idea here is to simplify the process and make it easier for the filers. So let's talk a little bit about the roles. Yes. Pardon? I'll answer your question at the end if that's okay. Yeah, there should be schedules A through F attached. Are they not attached to the Form 700? And they're not attached. Okay, we'll get that fixed. We'll get that fixed. Stephanie, would you mind running up and seeing if you can get those printed, please? Thank you. Okay. I can't really see. It should be a schedule.
Schedule A2?
Yeah, and there should be several schedules.
It's in the packet.
Oh, okay.
You have to go through the instructions that are there and the schedules behind the instructions. There's no F. I'm sorry. Yeah, there is no F.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry if there's a typo. Forgive me for that. So let's talk about the roles of the filing officer, the filing official, and your filer. And you may be wondering, I realize that some of you may have dual roles or may have one or the other. Certainly the clerk of the board's office does wear two hats. So as the filing officer for the clerk of the board, what we do is we make sure that those Form 700s are collected timely, that they're completed accurately. We're not necessarily looking at the content of what your filers are listing on the schedules. However, we want to make sure those required fields are filled in and that we have wet signatures. And more importantly, as the filing officer, we actually house the originals in our office, and that is a requirement of FPPC for us as the filing officer. And oftentimes we are actually wearing dual roles because we do have some commissions out there that do not have a filing official or a liaison, as we're referring to you all. And so we do the same things that you do. We're actually doing all of the mail-outs. We're sending out the Form 700s to those members who are required to file. We're making sure that we send out the reminder notices. We're trying to collect those forms on time and making sure that we're within compliance. So we do share some of those administrative roles that you are doing as well as the liaison. One thing I do want to point out, if you have some staff changes, FPPC does offer training, and we have a resources document in your packet. You can find the contact information there on how to get some of that training scheduled with FPPC for filing officers. And again, because we wear the dual roles, I think that training is appropriate even if you're a filing official. Let's talk about the filer. After all, this is what it's all about. The filer, your member who sits on the board, they have some deadlines that they have to follow. One, the annual statements are due April 1 of every year. So we like to encourage them to get them in ahead of time. Okay? That's how they avoid all of those nasty grams, those reminder notices that get chucked in the trash or deleted in the inbox, or delete box. We also know that for assuming office or leaving office, we need to have those forms in 30 days from when they assume or leave an office. And I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but I want to point out something very, very important, especially as a liaison. What you need to be communicating with your members is that if they don't have an original Form 700 filed with the filing officer, that would be the clerk of the board's office, they cannot vote on matters on their commission, okay? They would be in violation if they did that, and their vote actually should not count, and therefore there would be a chain reaction from there, a lot of work that you really don't want to have to do, revised action summaries, minutes, and so forth, okay? So we want to point that out. And really, what's really important here, too, is that, you know, we're here to help you, and we need your help, too. We just want to build a good relationship and work with you on anything that we can do to help with your administrative processes so that we can get these forms on time. And I think one of the biggest things is just communication. We need to be informed when there's changes to the membership. So I mentioned that something new will be added to our amended code for the boards and commissions, and it's related to the ethics training, which is a requirement by Assembly Bill 1234. The County of Sacramento has modified that requirement and extended it out, and what we will be proposing in June is that anyone who is a Form 700 filer will be required to complete this training. Now, what that means to you as the liaison is an additional task to your administrative functions, because we will need to have those training certificates tracked, and we'll need to have the originals in our office on file. Noncompliance could result in your member's seat being declared vacant. And that process is a public process. We actually take it to the Board of Supervisors, and we ask them to declare the seats vacant, and we really want to avoid that. So we want to try and work with you and come up with a process. If you need our help, we're certainly here and available to do that, give you suggestions, but that will be a task that will be assigned to the filing officials to track that ethics training and to get the completed certificate in our office. Okay?
The wet copy or just copies of the copies?
Copies will be just fine. As long as we have that copy, we're able to let the board know that these folks have taken the required ethics training. The ethics training really is a companion to the Conflict of Interest Code. It's giving the members an idea of some of the ethical responsibilities that they should be adhering to, that they should be practicing, and I think even just as a human race, we all should be practicing. So it's a companion to the Conflict of Interest Code. Okay. So now we're going to talk about electronic filing. We're very excited about this. This is new and upcoming, and I'm going to have Clarice come up and give you some information about that.
Thank you, Flo. Today I would like to talk to you about electronic filing. In 2014, the Board of Supervisors approved the new e-filing system, e-disclosure. Now, what the system does is it streamlines the process of the filing and submission of the Form 700. Designated county employees began using the new e-filing system in January 2015. And since then, the response has been positive, and that's a good thing. We're excited about that. Now, we'll be having actual training on e-disclosure system in December. However, the training invitation and information will come out in November, so keep an eye out for that information as well. This training will be for the liaison and the filers, both. This is really important that you get this training. Also, we're really excited about the Board and Commission of FILER'S filing electronically too in January 2016. Now let's talk about some of the benefits of this e-disclosure for the filing officials. That would be you all, the liaisons. E-filing saves you time and money, and we all like to save time and money. I know we do. It also helps you help your board comply with Reporting requirements. We like to stay within compliance with the FPPC. It also sends out annual notices and reminders electronically, so we can do away with a lot of that paper. As a filing official, you can securely file and submit your Form 700 to the filing officer. And overall, it assists with tracking and monitoring, and again, it keeps us in compliance. Now, benefits for the members. Members can file their Form 700 24/7. That's 24 hours, 7 days a week. So it's not only within business hours. So they can do it on the weekends, they can do it at midnight, before the sun comes up, whatever, whenever it's convenient for them. This is a secured program and password protected. So your information is safe and protected. And we need to know that we're safe. Also, the information is pre-populated because it transfers information from the prior year's forms. It also helps us complete, or helps you complete, the Form 700. So you can't submit it unless it's completely correct and done correctly. At the end of the day, it also saves them time and money as well. So what we need from you, inside of your packet should be a member confirmation form. Kind of looks like this. And we ask that you would review this form, make corrections if necessary, and return this form to us. If the information is correct and accurate, you can return it at the end of the session. Otherwise, you can take it with you, make necessary corrections, and return it to us by May 13th. So it's important that we have this back by May 13th, whether it's emailed, fax, or you can drop it off upstairs at our office. Also, we would need a copy of your amended conflict of interest code. Some of you may not have your own conflict of interest code. You may have documents establishing your board or commission, so we need a copy of that, or your bylaws or charters. And as Flo stated earlier, it's important that you keep us updated, so if there's any changes, we'll need a copy as soon as possible. You can fax it, email it, drop it off upstairs to our office as well. It's important that we have everything current. It helps us stay on track. Key dates. Now back to that form. Again, if you have that form completed and everything is accurate, we encourage you to go ahead and leave it with us at the end of the session. Otherwise, it's not due until May 13th. We're also scheduled to go before the board with the new proposed conflict of interest code on June 9th. Once that conflict of interest code is approved, we'll then send out copies to all of the boards and committees on June 10th. Again, we'll have a training on the e-disclosure system in December. However, the information goes out in November. So we'll send out training information and an invitation in November for you all. So keep an eye out for that information. We're really excited about this new system. We're looking forward to seeing you all in December. And I will pass this back over to Flo, who will now go over nominations and appointments with you.
We're really excited about the electronic filing, and that training, I want to point out, it's for the officials and your filers, so everyone will be invited and included to that, to be on the lookout for that. Thank you, Clarice. I want to talk about the appointments and nominations. This is just a time to put you at ease. I want to give you some reassurance that we are not changing the process for appointments and nominations. Many of you have been working with Lorraine Silva for a long time. She still will remain the point of contact for appointments and nominations. The reason why I wanted to take time to point this out to you is because we use a lot of the same language. language. So when Lorraine sends out her packet, included in that, I know you guys see the Form 700, because Lorraine is also trying to ensure that your member is in compliance and able to vote on matters, okay? So continue working with Lorraine. She is your point of contact for appointments and nominations. You will receive information from us well in advance when the handover occurs related to the Form 700, okay? Clarice will be the primary contact for electronic filing, and as it is related to the Form 700, and we'll work out all that other stuff on the back end. Okay. Make sure you have her contact information. For some of you who do not work with Lorraine, this information is included on your presentation as well in your packet. So now I'm going to go over some additional resources that will be available to you on a county public website. It's the Form 700 website. I do want to point out that right now we have electronic filers. We have employees that have already started filing. I want to let you know that as of April, we have 1,164 electronic filers out of 1,187. And they're very excited. We're getting a lot of positive response from that. And as she had mentioned, we're really excited about that. So this website that we're getting ready to go to is a website that we share with those electronic filers. So let me get that set up for you. I have to go to a different, I need to switch to a different machine so that it's big enough for you guys to see. So just give me 1 second. Oops. There we go. Okay, so which one am I using? This one. So here we are. This is the county's public webpage. Again, it's for the Form 700, Statement of Economic Interest form. We have, as I mentioned, a county employee-related links, if you notice there on the left side of the page. And I apologize, this is the largest that we could get this on our screen for you. But the county-related links are for those e-filers out there who are already filing. And for you board and commission liaisons, you want to go towards the right side of the page. We will have the training materials from today here available to you. We will also have a recorded copy of this training session. So if you are handing the baton over to someone else, you can point them here and use this as a resource for you. We also have the membership confirmation form, a blank form, so if you have updates in the future that you need to make, you will use that form and get that over to Clarice. And then the resources handout document that is inside of your packet, it's also available to you on the website. And I do want to point out that your resources information, there's a lot of contact information for you to get the training started and so forth. Okay, so let's just kind of summarize what we talked about today and what we're hoping that you walk away with some information, just a better understanding. We know that FPPC is the folks that regulate how we develop the code, what needs to be included in the code, and we also know that we are taking our conflict of interest code for the boards and commissions to the board on June 9th for adoption. And again, what we're going to be including in that is a current list of the boards and commissions that are required to file. We're also going to talk about the modified disclosure categories. We're also going to have the prescribed procedures for the required ethics training in that as well. And so that's something that I think is very important. When you get the executed material with the board's approval, you'll have very clear instructions on what your role is as the filing official. We also know that electronic filing is going to be mandatory for filers, okay? And so we will be using the e-disclosure system for electronic filers. We are going to be hosting a training for officials and filers in December, and be on the lookout for the invitation in November. I think that covers that. Again, the contact information is here and available for you. Clarice Thomas is someone that you will be working very closely with. We're here to help with the transition from the paper to the electronic process. Clarice will be the primary contact. You have her information here. It's inside of your packet. And again, you will receive advance notice when we make this transition. Okay, so you'll be well informed, and we'll make it as smooth and seamless as possible. Now we can open it up for questions. And before we go, I want to address the issue with the disclosure categories. We do have a disclosure category for consultants. It will be included. That would make it be the F. In your schedule, there isn't an F, but we do have one for the County of Sacramento. We didn't want to give any copies of our proposed disclosure categories because the board has not approved that yet for the boards and commissions. But I will tell you that if you'd like to see a copy of what that looks like, you can take a look at the ones for the employees. They went to the board in November of 2014, am I right, ladies? And we can get that to you as well. If you send us an email, we'll be happy to send you a copy of their approved conflict of interest code, where the disclosure categories will be exactly the same. Okay. Okay, any questions? Yes.
Our board members need to be approved by the board. We're supposed to submit to you the names of our board members. Is it okay to put them, give you the list, even though they're not yet approved by the board?
So the question is that if you have board members that are going to be sitting on the board and commission and they have not been approved by the board yet, can we take that in advance? Yes, we can. Yeah, that's very helpful. That goes back to that information sharing. If there's something that you foresee and you want to work ahead of time, that's fine. If you want to be proactive, we really appreciate that. Thank you. Yes, Jerry?
I have two questions.
Mm-hmm.
One, I do have a member on our board that does not use computers at all. So
Okay.
will we still be able to do the paper filing come 2016?
If you have a member who is unable to file electronically, we will work out some exceptions, and we'll do that one-on-one.
Okay.
Yes. And the second question?
My second question was, Lorraine is our contact for membership as far as people coming on or resigning.
Mhm.
Now, do we need to update Clarice as well, or will Lorraine and Clarice keep that information going?
Great question. So as I mentioned earlier, Lorraine is your point of contact for your nominations and appointments, and you do work with her on the membership information. I want you to continue doing that. We will be working with Lorraine on the back office end to make sure that we have the required information that we need. One thing I want to point out that I might not have made clear to you is that we are preparing for the electronic filing system. And in order to do that, we had to have this information session so that we could kind of put it on your radar and then let you know the type of information that we need so that we can do a big information dump into the database so that we can be up and running for your filers. So we will be taking care of that on the back end. And when the baton switches over to Clarice, you will receive clear notice, instruction, information. It will be very clear, and it will be advance notice. And we'll give you an opportunity to let us know if you have any concerns about that. Was that it?
Yes.
Okay. Someone else had a quick. Yes, ma'am.
I also have two questions.
Okay.
So I have all the ethics certificates, and recently I was working on letting commissioners know if they needed to
Great.
go through the training. So should I just get those together? Do I send those to Lorraine?
If you have copies of your members' ethics training certificates, please send copies to Lorraine, and also if you could send it to the COB email. Please send it to Lorraine, and also send it to the COB Form 700 email. The invitation that you received, if you can copy that, our email and contact information is inside of your packets as well. Okay, she had one more question, dear. Just 1 second. And what was your second question?
Also, I don't get any current information when we have new commissioners, if they filled out the 700 form and sent it to Lorraine or whoever. How are we supposed to know if they filled the form out?
Okay, so this is a good question. This goes back to when I said that sometimes we wear dual roles. Sometimes we're the filing officer and we're the filing official. If the current process where you're not being kept in the loop, just continue working the way that you are working. Right now, in terms of the membership information that we're asking you to submit to us, just give to us what you know to be the best of your knowledge to date. Whatever it is that you have in terms of your current roster information, give that to us. As I said, we will be working on a transition plan with Lorraine so that we can clarify your role, our role, and what we need from you and how we'll be working together, because it will change. Once we go into the electronic filing, it will change. We're just not there yet. We're just in the preparation forms of being able to get the information into the system. So again, I want to make sure that you leave here very clear that you still continue to work with Lorraine. If you are not a filing official and Lorraine is primarily doing all of your administrative work, that's okay. You're not in error. Just continue doing what you do in your role. If you could just be so kind to give us the information that you do have to the best of your knowledge, that's helpful for us. We have something that we can check that against, okay? Did I answer your question?
Well, I guess I've been kind of working in the dark because I didn't know. I mean, I'm just assuming Lorraine is following up on the 700
something to that.
because I haven't been. So
Okay.
Charlene, no news is good news on that, where you and I are concerned. Lorraine will contact you if she needs help getting your people to give her the information. So if you don't hear anything, no news is good news. So you're okay.
thank you.
Absolutely. And another place that you can check if you are trying to do some administrative functions and on what you need to do your job as a staff person or a liaison, you can always refer to our action summaries for our board meetings, where we do identify people who have been appointed. That date is the effective date of their appointment, and we all know that 30-day magic number from there, okay? So that's something you can always refer to, and again, you can always contact our office and we'll be happy to help you. Especially during this transition phase, we're just give us a call. Can you wait 1 second, because she raised her hand like 3 times and they'll come right back over here. Okay, yes dear.
My question pretty much was pertaining to that 700 form, but it's basically, once they start the e-filing, and we are supposed to keep track of if they've completed it, if they've done the AC-12 report, how do we know? Do we get copies from somewhere to put into our?
Okay. So what she's asking is, in terms of tracking and how it ties in to your role and with the electronic filing system with e-disclosure, what you're going to learn in the upcoming training as the filing official is that e-disclosure really does all of the work for you. We are going to, as a courtesy, we'll have all of your information in the system, so you won't even have to do that. We're going to teach you how you run reports to see if those members have filed, and they will. There's reminders in the system. The system really works for you. It just simplifies a lot of the work that we are doing outside of that, the paper, the emails, and so forth. As far as the ethics training is concerned, as I had mentioned earlier, this is something that will be new to you filing officials, to the liaisons. And so this is a time where you want to think about some procedures, some processes that you can kind of implement into your current process that you use when you have new members come on board. Maybe figure out a way that you want to track that they are completing that before you do something else. Okay, an example, and I'm just going off the top of my head and my nerves are all here. So an example would be maybe for us when we have new commissioners, maybe we don't release the, maybe we won't release their parking passes and their badges to enter into the buildings until we receive X, Y, and Z. So is that a good example? Okay, and did you have another question? You need to contact our office, and we'll get involved at that time. Okay? If you have someone that is not complying and you need assistance, we encourage you to forward that to the clerk of the board's office. Let us get involved, and we'll take it from there. Right now, I'd like you to continue working with Lorraine Silva, and if you could be so kind, we don't mind getting copied. If you want to CC us on those email correspondence, CC the COB Form 700 email address, and that way we can stay alert. And as I mentioned, I want to reassure you that we are working with Lorraine on the back end, and we have some things in place so that we can collect that information, and we're minimizing the miscommunication gaps. And just one second, I promised you.
I've got 3, unless you...
Oh no, you can only have one. No, I'm joking. Okay.
We have 9 people on our board.
Okay.
3 are appointed by county, 3 by city, 3 by regional transit.
Okay.
Does this only apply to the 3 counties as it has in the past?
Tell me your name.
Donna.
Are you?
Paratransit.
Okay, so paratransit is an exception to the rule, and I will talk to you later, because we know we kind of have a unique...
My other ones for women?
Yes, we have a unique relationship with paratransit in terms of the filing officer and official role. Okay, thank you, Donna. Yes.
Okay, we have a homeless co-applicant board.
Yes.
2 of our members were homeless members, and we're not able to find them. So they vacated their role, but we haven't had them do a 700 form because they're kind of missing.
So this is a unique board as well. This is a board that does have members who are homeless, so it might be a little more difficult to get the Form 700 forms of the leaving and assuming office statements. We'll work with you individually. I just wanted to share it with the group so you're all aware of what's going on here. We'll work with you individually, and we will get county council involved. This question has come up, and I do want to let you know that the decision was that those members are still required to file. So we'll have to work something out, and we'll do that together. But thank you for bringing that up. See, this way, if you have one of these unique situations, we can work it out. We'll help you get those forms, and so that we can stay in compliance. Are there any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Where are we, okay. Trying to see if I have already the information. But this form here is due back by
May 13th. Please return the forms. The question is, where do we return the membership forms? Please return them to Clarice Thomas. If you can scan them and send them in, that's great. If not, you can also send it to us by mail. And I'm not sure, I believe we have our return information, and if we don't, we'll put that on the web page for you, and so that you can have the address, and I will go ahead and verbally give it to you right now if you want to write that down. Please mail it to 700 H, like Henry Street, Suite 2450, Sacramento 95814. Does anyone know our mail code? 245. And if you'd like to use inter-office mail, we are 082450. If you could put that to the attention of Clarice Thomas.
Did you say could we scan it and...
If you can scan it in, you can scan it in email, that's fine. We are going to electronic filing, so we want to get away from paper. Were there any other questions? Yes, dear.
Three pending applications, 2 of which we're doing interviews this afternoon for the PHAB board. And do you want that information on here or wait until they're actually finished?
I'd like you to wait for that. Because what we can do when we get those membership confirmation forms, we will compare that once the appointments are made. Because we all know anything can happen between now and the board's approval of anything. Okay, any other questions? Okay. So we're at the end of the information session. I want to thank you again for taking time to come out of your busy schedules and considering this unexpected weather change. I don't know if any of you got hit with the rain. We hope that you leave this session today with information that you might not have known prior to coming. We also hope that you walk away with a feeling that we want to work with you. We really want to have a good working relationship. We want to be able to help with your processes and get your feedback on what we could have done better, or if there's some other information that we should be giving you. And drive safely. Thank you again. Have a really good day. Oh, if you have your form and you're ready to sign off on that, feel free to give that to Stephanie. They're in the back in the blue, and she'll collect that from you.
And you did say you have some information that we can take with us. Was that today?
That's in your packet. Your information packet.
I thought you said you had a recording or something.
Oh, this training session is being recorded, and we will be adding it to that webpage, the county's public webpage for Form 700. We'll be adding that to the webpage, and we were hoping that you could use this. If you have some staff changes and you don't want to regurgitate all of this stuff, you go ahead and use the webpage. Let them refer to the training materials and the video. Work with us. We'll help you get that transition over. We just want to make sure that we keep the communication open. Okay? All righty. Thank you very much for coming out. This is something I'm doing at the very last minute. I want to point out we do have someone very important here with us. Mr. David Villanueva is our boss. He is the Chief Deputy CEO for Internal Services, and he is the chief on this project. We are working with him. And I'd also like to thank Brian Richards, who is our project manager. He is phenomenal. I'd like to introduce Diana Richards and Luis Martinez from the Clerk Recorder's Office. We have all been working as a team for a little over a year. We started out with the employees. Now we're focused on the boards and commissions, and we still have a lot more work to do. So I want to thank these people for coming out. I want to thank you all again. Please drive safely and have a really good day.